In this video, we will explore the idea of stress and how it might actually be something to embrace as a positive thing. Be sure to listen carefully and even take notes, as this material is invaluable to anyone who is serious about learning how to better handle stress and feelings of anxiety. Before we get started, please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe buttons to be sure not to miss any of our incredible content in the future. Go ahead and get that done. I'll wait. Okay, let's get into it. Rethinking stress. How changing your thinking could save your life. We know stress can cause physical harm as well as premature death, but it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, rethinking stress to be a friend rather than a foe can serve a protective function and make stress something that works for us rather than against us. The psychological changes that come about from stress are not necessarily bad for us. The key lies in our thinking. Our perception of stress can shift it from a negative force to a more positive one. Let me explain. Stress, the mind-body connection. It's been long established that the mind and body are closely connected. Now, researchers found that the way we think about stress could add decades to our lives. Yep, decades. Research from Harvard has found that reframing stress as helpful rather than harmful can improve performance and reverse the psychological changes brought about by stress. In the first of its kind, a massive study of almost 30,000 participants explored the relationship between the experience of stress, the perception of how stress affects health, and morality. Researchers used data from the National Health Interview Survey, NHIS. Here's what they found. The risk of premature death was increased if people who were experiencing stress believed that stress would adversely impact their health. Those who reported experiencing high stress and who also believed that stress adversely affected health had a 43% increase in the risk of premature death. Those who experienced high stress but didn't believe it would be harmful were at the lowest risk of dying, even lower than people who didn't experience a lot of stress. Though further research is needed to establish a causal relationship, the evidence from this study is compelling. Stress alone isn't dangerous, but perceiving it to be is. If this were a causal relationship, and there's no evidence yet that it is, the combination of the experience of stress, together with the perception that stress is bad for health, would be around the 14th leading cause of death. How does it work? The exact mechanisms aren't clear, but there are a few compelling theories. Previous research has found that people who have a pessimistic expectation of life show poorer mental and physical health. They also display more negative health symptoms, even in response to a placebo. Negative expectations may give rise to a self-fulfilling prophecy, whereby the expectation that stress is harmful negatively influences the self-reporting of health. People who have experienced moderate amounts of stress before may be more resilient to stress in the future. Therefore, when faced with a lot of stress, they have experience telling them that they will get through it relatively unscathed. Those who believe that stress adversely affects their health may be more likely to believe that stress is attributable to circumstances outside of their control. Research has shown that people who believe that control of things, like health, lies outside of themselves are more likely to experience trouble than those who believe their health is within their control. In the same way, anxiety spirals because of anxiety about the anxiety. Being stressed about the stress would likely exacerbate the experience of stress as well as the psychological effects. Research has found that thinking about stress in a positive light stops blood vessels constricting during stress. It's this constriction that has a hefty contribution to cardiovascular disease. Viewing stress as something positive actually keeps the blood vessels relaxed, similar to what happens when people experience joy and courage. When the effect of this is taken over a lifetime, this alone could be the difference between dying of a heart attack mid-life and living a long and heart attack-free life. When you view stress in a positive way, as something that is there to help you, your body believes you, and your psychological response to stress becomes much healthier. Stress helpful? Prove it. Okay, here goes. When something happens to cause stress, the brain activates the body for fight or flight. As part of this process, heart rate increases to send oxygen effectively to the brain, fuel for the brilliance that's about to follow. Now you are perfectly positioned to deal with the challenge coming your way. Researchers from the University of California have found that some stress is good for you, as it keeps the brain more alert and improves performance. In studies done on rats, chosen because of their genetic and biological similarity to humans, a stressful event initiated the proliferation of nerve cells that, upon maturity 2 weeks later, improved mental performance. During times of physical or psychological stress, oxytocin, also known as the bonding hormone or the cuddle hormone, is released by the pituitary gland. Oxytocin works on the social centers of the brain, priming you to bond with others, look for support, and strengthen relationships. The release of oxytocin is your brain's way of encouraging you to talk to someone about whatever it is you are going through. Why do we look for emotional support? Because it's good for us. It's what we humans are wired to do, but also because emotional support from others is associated with a reduced psychological stress response. It decreases the levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Oxytocin is also a natural anti-inflammatory that protects the cardiovascular system from the effects of stress. During times of stress, it helps blood vessels stay relaxed, and it helps heart cells heal from any damage done to them by stress. When you reach out for support, your body will release even more of this wonder hormone to help you recover faster and more fully from stress. We are wired to seek out human connection, and this is why. Our challenge is to listen to that, so nature can work its magic. Under certain conditions, short-term stress prepares the immune system for assault from environmental stressors such as wounds, medical procedures, infection, vaccination, or a hard-fought stint on a sports field. During stress, the body's defenders, the immune system, enter the bloodstream. As the stressor progresses, the cells leave the blood and enter the parts of the body that are about to go to battle, such as the skin. The stress response increases the potency of the immune cells. According to Professor of Psychiatry, Firdaus S. Dabar of Stanford University, recovery from surgery or vaccination is quicker if the stress response is activated. This is also the case for immunization. Psychological stress or a short bout of exercise before a vaccination will significantly increase the effectiveness of the vaccine response because a stress response will be activated. But I've been drummed about the evils of stress. How do I change my thinking now? Stress is there to help us survive, not to harm us. Of course, it doesn't always work out like this, but according to research, this is due to our perception of stress rather than the stress itself. The good news about perception is that changing it is something we can control.
Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you feel as though you've received some real value and insight from this content, please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe buttons so as not to miss any of our new video releases. We upload new videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Until next time, we remain Business Brain USA.